Hello developers, welcome to day 29 of the 30 days of JavaScript challenge. Today presents another opportunity for us to tackle challenges and enhance our understanding of JavaScript concepts. It's only one day remaining, so let's dive in and make the most out of this learning journey. In today's challenge, we are supposed to create a class called ArrayWrapper that accepts an array of integers in its constructor. This class will have two features. The first feature is that when two instances of this class are added together with the addition operator, the resulting value is the sum of all the elements in both arrays. The second feature is that when the string function is called on the instance, it will return a comma-separated string surrounded by brackets. Let's look at some examples. So in the first example, we have two objects. Object 1 contains the array of 1 and 2. Object 2 contains the array of 3 and 4. So when you add these two objects, that if you take object 1 plus object 2, you're supposed to get a value 10. Although this one is an object and this also is an object, when you add those two objects, you're supposed to get a number that is 10. That's what the challenge expects us to do. We'll see how we'll do that. Okay. Example 2, when the object is an array of numbers, then you call the string function with this object. You're supposed to get a string containing all the elements in that array and also this opening and closing square bracket. So that is what they expect in that example 2. Then the third examples, when you create two objects that have an empty array, both of them, and you add the two objects, you're supposed to get the number 0, because I've already explained there. It's expected to add that. It is expected to add the sum of elements in array 1, that is object 1, plus the sum of elements in array 2. Then you'll get a number. Although this one, the object is supposed to get a number, and we'll see how we're supposed to do that. Then the constraint says that the length of the nums array should be between 0 and 1000. Then each value in the nums array is supposed to have the value of 0 to 1000. Each element is supposed to have the value of 0 to 1000. Then there's a note here saying that the nums array is passed to the constructor. So that much ado, let's just go straight to the solution. To solve this challenge, I'll create a class called ArrayWrapper, like that. ArrayWrapper. Then I'll show that this class will accept an array of integers in its constructor. So I'll create my constructor there. You know that a constructor is a method. So this constructor should accept an array of integers. And if you look at these examples, the array of integers is called nums. But you can just give it any name, but I'll just give it nums. Then you want this dot nums to equal nums. You're trying to add this as an attribute for every object that will be created of this class. So if you don't understand about this syntax here, you can just check our previous challenges, or you can check the Learn JavaScript playlist where we discussed about object-oriented programming in detail. So also they expect when you create an object, I'll call it object 1, and I'll use the new keyword. When you create an object, you should call this. To create an object, you have to pass an array of numbers. So I'll just use example 1 and pass an array of numbers 1 and 2, like that. Then I'll also create another object 2, and I'll pass an array of 3 and 4, like that. Then they expect when you take object 1, add to object 2, you're supposed to get the number 10. So let me just store this into a variable. For that variable result, or I can just spell it res. Then it has log res. So before even you log it, you first have to understand how JavaScript works. So when you try to add two objects, what JavaScript will do, it will try to get the value of this first object, then also get the value of this second object, then add those two values. In the previous challenges, we talked about the prototype, and so that objects have these methods in their prototype. There's this method constructor has one property, toString and value of. And in that day, we discussed about toString in detail. But there's this method called value of also. So JavaScript will use this method called value of to get the value of this object. Then also it will get the value of this second object using the same method. Then it will add the values of those two objects, then return the results of the values of those two objects. So what this value of does for objects, it will return the actual object, but as a string. So it will return object. If you try to get the value of this object one, it will call the toString method, so that it will convert this object into a string. And we saw in the previous challenge that if you convert an object to a string, you get object, but as a string. So if you try to add the value of this, you have seen that it will be a string of object, and also this will also be a string of object. So if you try to add the values of these two, there'll be two strings now. It will be like you're concatenating those two strings, and you'll just get one string saying object, like that. So maybe I can just run this code to confirm. So let me run it. I expect to see object there in the terminal, because that's how JavaScript works. Let me just run it again. It refused to run. And you see I got object. But you can just check the type of it so that you can confirm it's a string. So let me just say type of. And you will see that it will say it is of type string, because I've explained that that's how JavaScript works. So you can see it's type of string. So if you add two objects, you get a string. So that's the default behavior of how JavaScript works. So in this challenge, we are trying to change that behavior. So to change that behavior, you need to overload this value of method. You know that this value of method is present in all objects. All objects have this value of method, just like how toString method is present in all objects. Also, this value of method is also present in all objects because it is present in the object prototype. And we discussed about prototype in detail in the previous challenge. Okay, so to overload that method, you have to redefine it again. So I'll just come here in my class and try to define it again. So it's called value of, I'll just say value of, like that. So it's a method. I'll just call it that syntax. So what I want this method to do, you have said that this method is called when you should try to add two objects. You'll first get the value of this, then get the value of this. So when I get the value of this object, I need to return the sum of elements in this array. So that's why I want to redefine this method, so that when this object, any of those objects calls this method, instead of returning the string, I need to return the value of this, the value of the sum of these arrays. So I'll just get that array, and know that array is stored in this.nums. So I'll just get that array this.nums. Then you can use any method to get the sum of an array. So you can either use the for loop or any method, but I prefer using the reduce. So I'll just use the reduce. I'll call the reduce method because you know that this is an array, so you can call the reduce method on it. And this reduce method takes in a callback function and the start value of an accumulator. So I want the start value to be 0. Then what this function will do, it will just take you have said it takes an accumulator, item. This callback function takes an accumulator, item, index, and array. What I want it to do is just take the accumulator, add to the item, like that. Then return that value. So that this is how we calculate the sum of elements in an array. So I'll just return that value. So I'll just say return, like that. Okay. So now I expect when I try to add these two objects, if I get the value of object 1, I've overridden this, I've overloaded this value of method. So instead of returning that string, it will return the value, the sum of these two elements. So it will return 3. Then if I try to get the value of object 2, it will return 7. So it will be 3 plus 7, then I'll get 10. And that's what the challenge expects us to do. Maybe I can just run this code to prove it. And you can see indeed I got 10 in the terminal. So that's how I was supposed to solve this first feature of the class. So let us go to the second feature. The second feature expects us, when you call the string function on the instance, it should return a comma separated string surrounded by brackets. So first let us look at how the string function behaves first. So let us call the string function on any of the instance. So let me just remove that and to call the string function on that object 1. So I'll call the string function on object 1, like that. So before you can log it, let me just explain how this string function works. So if you call this string function on any instance of this class, so if you call the string function on any object, it will call the toString method of the object. You know that objects have the toString method. We've already discussed about this many times. So if you call this string function on this object, it will call the toString method. And we have already seen that toString method will return a string of object. So if you call this string on object one, you expect to see a string of object. So you can just run that code to confirm. And you can say got object, and if you check the type, it will be of type of string. And I think you already checked the type that day, so I'll not check the type again. So, but we want to make this method to work differently. When you call this string method on this, you want to get a comma separated string surrounded by brackets. So in short, you're trying to overload the toString method so that it might behave differently. So just like the value of, I'll overload the toString method like this. Then I want it to return a comma separated value of this array. So to convert an array into a comma separated value, then these brackets will also be included. So I can just use the join method because the join method converts an array to a string. So I can just call this array and call the join method on it. So I'll just call that array this.nums, then say dot join. Then I want to join them with comma. Then and also to add this one will not return the brackets, but you can just prove. Let's just run this so that you can see what it will return. So you can say I got 1 and 2, but I want also to have the brackets before and after. So I'll just use the string inter. You can just use there's many methods. You can use the concatenation, but I prefer using this backticks. So I'll use the backticks. Then this one I'll put it like that. Then I put here $sign. Yeah. Then I'll put an bracket there and a square bracket there. So now I'll get this array, but now we'll have this opening and closing bracket like that. So if I run this code again now, I'll get the expected results. You can see I love this opening and closing square bracket, and that is what is expected. But also you can also use the concatenation method. That is like this. You can just put like that. Then you put here the square bracket. Then also here you just put like that. It will also work. So anyone that you prefer is just fine. You can see if I just run, it will also work. But the one that I use for backtick is the ES6 syntax, and you should be using the latest syntax. So I'll just go back to the one that I had previously. But you can see all of them work. Okay. So that is the solution to this challenge. And all of them, we have seen that the string and the value of all of them work. So yeah, that is the solution to this challenge. See you in the next challenge. Peace out.